Welcome to Don't Mind Me, I'm Different, the podcast where I kick down the barriers and myths surrounding ADHD in the workplace. Whether it's navigating the office chaos, trying to break this stigma, or learning what is this thing called ADHD, I'm here step by step to advocate, educate, and empower you in any way that I can. Get ready to own your difference and shine on the job. Welcome back, and wow, this is episode 3, and it's going to be a barn burner. I have special guest, ADHD coach Russ Jones from the ADHD Big Brother podcast, and he talks about his struggles with ADHD at work. He also talks about his passion and what led to coaching by community, which he calls in service of the doing. And we also talk about how meditation and mindfulness has really helped change the way that we view ourselves. And finally, he gets vulnerable when he talks about his depression and how he's been able to overcome that. Stay tuned to the very end because I have a special bonus. Let's get it rocking. Well, welcome, guys. And we're back here at Don't Mind Me, I'm Different. And we're here with Russ Jones, and I'm honored to have him on. He has his own podcast, ADHD Big Brother, and he's out, in LA, right?
Yep.
Yeah. So without further ado, can you tell me a little bit about yourself, Russ? What's your like ADHD origin story?
Oh, where I got my superpower?
Yeah.
The, the um, I didn't know until I was, like, 40. So um, it was
Yeah.
right in the middle of me, my marriage was declining, and we were in couples counseling,
Mm.
and the therapist in couples counseling was like, "I think you might wanna have yourself tested for ADHD." And I was like, "Why don't you help me with my marriage, dude? Let's quit not talk about my brain. Let's talk about my marriage." And the and I got real
Yeah.
so dysregulated by that, and then and then
Yeah.
I did what we all do, which is you go down the rabbit hole of just looking up everything and taking every online quiz and what kind of an animal are you and what kind of a cheese are you? And they're
Mm.
all the things that are ADHD. And so then I got assessed. It wasn't in time to save the marriage or anything. And I think that was going to happen anyways. But the it was right around age 40 was when I discovered it. And it really, it's such a common thing for a lot of us. I don't know what your story is, but like the grief. First of all, it's
Yeah.
like, "Oh god, there's an answer here. I'm not just a lazy piece of shit. Oh my god." And then there's
Mm.
the grief part, which is,
Yeah.
"Oh my, if only I would have known when I was 20, maybe I would have finished college. Maybe I could have had tools and strategies back
Yeah.
then." Um, so that's basically, you know, that's kinda how I discovered it, and then, yeah, that's it.
Yeah. I'm, similar. I was around 41
Mhm.
ish. And people have been telling me my whole life to slow down. And I've really just thought, you guys need to just catch up, like like I don't know what you're
Totally.
talking. I'm not having any problems here with this. Um,
Right.
but yeah, it took me like almost getting fired from my job. They were pulling me in the office, and I was hurting myself, and
Mm.
um, knocking stuff over and spilling, dangerous chemicals. And the day, and I was like seeing a therapist at that point, and I was like, because I was rushing. I thought like, hey, I can just not go fast, and that's just not how this works. But
Yeah.
I ended up like having so we fill up these drums with this noxious chemical, and
Mhm.
it's like I didn't have it all the way on the scale, and when it was filling up, it just didn't record the weight properly, so it ended up overfilling, and my boss was there, and I was just like, "Oh god, this is it.
No, no, no.
This is it." I'm like a
That's
dead man
different.
walking.
Like, that's
But
how the Joker was
fortunately
born, isn't it? Is the noxious chemicals,
yeah,
and it
yeah,
all
well
pours on you, and you become like your face melt.
yeah, exactly. So, but this stuff is like it started smoking, because it's made from hydrogen peroxide, so that stuff
Dude.
like yeah, it started so you gotta water it the fuck down, and I was cleaning it up, like, "This is it," and I ended up talking to her in the office and just, like, pleading, like, "I have ADHD, I'm seeing a therapist," and I ended up having to stop training on that line for a bit because I needed to get better with
Yeah.
the things that they were teaching me.
You're like,
So
"I
yeah.
invoke ADHD, please invoke article
Yeah,
ADHD upon this." Yeah, it's
I know.
interesting that when I was working at UPS, um, there's certain jobs that, uh, are a good fit, and then there's certain jobs that are just maybe a bad fit based on our,
Mhm.
uh, neurodiversity or whatever. Like,
Yeah.
I I did really well in the job because it was urgent and chaotic every day, right? Every day is a new sort, and
Mhm.
every day was like, I'm responsible for people and I'm responsible for equipment that if it's wrong, it could cost the company like tens of thousands of dollars, right? It won't
Yeah.
go on the train because I was dealing with the semi stuff, right? The trailers. And the I couldn't hold any of that information. Like
Yeah.
when I was in training, I was screwing up left and right. I couldn't fucking do it. And so I literally created the most remedial, the most basic
Yeah.
spreadsheet checklist of what to do. And I had to carry that checklist around with me all day. Like, open email, open this, look at this, double check this. And it took me like a couple of months before it was started like, oh, now I know it, right? Because it's now motor memory. But dude, like, sometimes in the beginning, we're just like, oh, I just can't do this because I have ADHD and I can't,
Well, you
I
you kinda just like, if you don't understand it, you feel like you're dumb.
you
Like,
feel like you're dumb. Yeah. And like, why would I want a checklist for opening an email? I'll
yeah,
totally open
they
my email,
no yeah, why do I need
but then
this?
I
Like,
don't.
but it's so much deeper than that.
Really.
Now that I've been able to, like, look at the research and, um, understand it in my life and, like, things, like, connect, like, one book that I've read that's really helped me is, Your Brain's Not Broken. Um,
Mhm,
I forget what her name is, but, like, it was talking about how we we think because of the way our brain's designed and the
mhm,
executive function, we really think a lot of our decision making comes out of that emotional side of our brain. So it's
mhm,
like and that is one of the worst places to make a decision. Um,
mhm,
but it became like a default for me, and for other people with ADHD because that was the only way that we could remember stuff. Was like
mm.
it had to be beaten in or we had to forget it so many times that we got yelled at. So,
Yeah, that just
yeah, that
doesn't that sound awful? Like,
yeah,
so there becomes a fear-based type of learning where you're so, afraid of screwing up. That's
yeah.
that whole like, having a life of that is no wonder most of us have depression or anxiety and as a as the bedfellow, as a comorbidity.
Yeah, she was talking about how comparing that the emotional side of the brain is like your angry neighbor yelling at you, um,
Mhm.
and telling you, and that's kinda like how my brain works, like, a lot of times I would the self-talk is like, "You're an idiot." Like, "You're
Yeah.
stupid." Like, "Can't you
Yeah.
remember this?" And that, I've had to learn how to, recognize that and be like, "That's not loving, that's not caring, and that's not how I should be talking to myself," and if
For
I'm
sure.
talking to myself that way, I'm talking to others even worse. So,
Well,
yeah.
I think that my thinking is we're the worst to ourselves because
Mhm.
the shit that we say to ourselves is horrendous. There was I fought
Yeah.
against I still do kind of to a point um like that affirmation self-love type stuff, which just it sounds good on paper,
I know,
but
right?
I could never convince my mirror that I love myself.
Mhm.
And I'm diagnosed depression too, so it's a that's a tough line. And my mantra really is to be cool with myself. Like I loving myself is kind of ridiculous. You don't go from hating yourself to like proposing marriage to yourself. Like, oh, I love
Yeah.
you. You're the greatest. I'm like, but I at the very minimum, I can treat myself like a shitty roommate that pays the bills, right? Like I'm cool with him. He can stay.
Yeah. Yeah.
So like being cool with myself through all these through all that negative self-talk is it's been super helpful to me.
Yeah, I know, like, a lot of the mindfulness practices that I do now is, like it's like telling you to, like, put happiness out in the world, and you're worth it, and I'm like in the beginning, I'm like, "That's not something that I've relate that's like a foreign language,"
Yeah.
um, but, like,
That's like
over time.
superstar level mindfulness. That's
Yeah.
like you're playing in the pros.
Yeah, yeah. No, but it's like, over time, I've been able to be like, "Yeah, I do, I deserve these things. I
Mhm.
deserve, like, because of even the, especially celebrating the little wins. We have to do that. Like it's absolutely necessary. Like for in my life, like when I got the email that you were you were gonna you set up the interview, I was like, "Yes." Like I was so excited. I could barely get to sleep. Um, because it's like,
Wow, I'm flattered.
yeah, I was like, this is happening. Like it's so surreal.
We're
Um,
really doing this, aren't we? We're really
no, because I got, I've listened to your podcast, and it's like the first one that I listened to was with the one with Megs Crawford, and
Oh, yeah,
you
Megs is
know
awesome.
that was a really good one because like I'm developing my own website with and I want to split it up to have different like the four major um struggles that we have, which is like task
Oh,
initiation, um
mhm,
focus,
mhm.
um, time management, and organization.
Ah,
And I've
perfect.
figured I'm like a pretty organized guy. I feel,
Really?
but we can always get like like because that like it may not be somebody else's struggle, but the things that she's
Er
taught is like, oh, maybe I could add that too. So it's very
She's
interesting.
awesome. Well, with the decluttering, she came into our
Yeah,
community and she, did a decluttering event with us, which I thought, check this out, which was we body doubled. So it was a bunch of us in on Zoom, right? And
yeah.
then we were all picking a thing to declutter. Like for me, I was going through my bookshelves over here. It was just a hot mess of like just shit. And while we were asking her questions about organization, we were doing the things and we'd be like, I have this doodad. What do I do with this, Megs? And she'd be like, well, if you were looking for it, where would it go? And we would get, and I was like,
Mhm.
that's the most brilliant way to workshop uh, organization is while you're doing
Yeah.
it.
Mhm. Yeah,
That cool? Yeah, I
and
think that's cool.
you don't feel alone. Like, you don't feel like it's
No,
not as hard.
no.
Yeah.
And dude, that goes to your timeliness as well, right? Where you're like, okay, I'm gonna declutter my bookshelf. Well, that's
Oh,
gonna
yeah.
take 5 hours. And you're like, but it won't really
Yeah.
take 5 hours. But it feels like it's gonna take forever. So I just don't have the time for that. So I'm not gonna do it.
Yeah, we have the some of us have absolutely no perception. Most of us have no perception of time,
Yeah.
like
99.9999999% maybe? I don't know.
when we come back, Russ Jones will talk about how his passion has led him to create coaching by community and how that has not only helped him, but many others. So yeah, talk to me a little bit more about like it's called coaching by community, right? Um
Oh, yes. Yes, sir. Well, okay, so, there's like, I'm a coach, right? So I
okay,
coach people
cool.
one-on-one for ADHD, and that's great. Then people, will typically have group coaching, right? That's your more affordable, and you're
Mhm.
typically on like a group Zoom chat, right? And then I I created community coaching, which it's
Mhm.
not it's easier to kinda say what it's not and then to say what it is. It's
Yeah.
not just a big, typical community, like group hug. We're all gonna talk about, squirrel and, forgot my keys and all the cliche ADHD memes and all that stuff, which is
Yeah.
I don't have a problem with it. I make fun of it, but I don't believe that's a necessity. It's intrinsic in us. We all naturally give a shit about each other. People with ADHD with each other because we
Yeah.
all understand our struggle. We all understand the support or lack thereof in our immediate families and friends. A lot of us are isolated by it. So we all naturally have that, but I'm in service of the doing, of the work, and the getting shit done, like getting our shit together and doing it together. So you look at, things like this was born out of a quick group that I was in years and years ago. I had like a 20-year addiction to nicotine, um, chewing
Yeah,
tobacco
that's tough.
and cigarettes, and a lot of times it was both same time. Like have a chew
Yeah.
in for 30
That's
minutes,
wow.
then smoke a cigarette, nonstop nicotine.
Yeah.
And I joined a quick group where we posted every day. It was like daily accountability. We posted every day. Day one, no matter what, no matter what happens in life, no matter
Yeah.
if people die, no matter if people win awards or whatever, I am not going to chew, no matter what.
Mhm.
And then you just purge and you come on to the community and you like, I'm having a miserable time. And people are like, me too. This is the worst as we're dealing with the withdrawals. Right. And so that mentality really stuck with me of
Mhm.
having a support system. And I mean, I know I'm rambling, so I went down a rabbit hole there.
You're fine.
It's good that your show's called Rabbit Hole, isn't it? That
Well, I've
we
actually
dive down.
changed the name,
Oh, you
but
are? You did?
yeah, because that's funny, like, and for the viewers, like, it was originally called The Rabbit Hole when we made
What is it
the,
now?
what I'm calling it now is "Don't Mind Me, I'm Different." Because
Don't
I didn't think when I was making the name that there was gonna be, another podcast potentially named that, and I didn't look for
Oh,
that. But
yes.
one of the
Yes,
guys
yes,
that
yes.
I've, talked he's, like, asking me about the podcast, and he's like, "There's not another one named that?" And I was like, "You know what? I actually don't know that."
Let me check it
So I did, like,
out.
an Apple podcast search, and, yeah, there's at least 4 or 5 of them. I think,
Oh,
NBC has one, and but it's called Rabbit Hole, but I just wanted to
yeah.
be like, "You know what? To avoid any confusion, let's just come up with a different
Yeah.
name."
No, that's
Um,
smart. That's smart. In terms of Yeah,
But we
so
do go
talking about
down
the
rabbit
community,
holes. So
yeah, we're still gonna go down a
but we
rabbit hole.
do.
The community, it was built on that, and then it's structured around, affordability, really. The,
Yeah.
uh, the idea that, um, we can get coaching, like, the gist of it is that, like, I would go to therapy, I would go to an ADHD coach, and I would have these great sessions, these great breakthrough moments, and then
Yeah.
I wouldn't do any of the work, right? So then 7 days goes by and I have another session and I'm paying a shitload of money for, a moment of a breakthrough, an hour of time where I can feel good and like I have hope. And then I don't do any of the work. And so the community is structured and built for the doing with gamified stuff. We play games.
That's awesome.
I'm like, I think you can you see this? Here, look, I'm, this is the only reason I work out. This is
Yeah.
literally the only reason why I'm doing 20 minutes of exercise every day. It's so that I can roll the dice on this shoots and ladders game and,
That's funny. Yeah, that's awesome.
beat one of the members of the community so that I can be the winner.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
it's like that kind of a thing. We, and having, the, like a hive mind, you know what I mean?
Mhm.
There's a sense of like, okay, if I go to a coach, and I'm not gonna slam coaching because I am one, and there's a true value in one-on-one coaching.
Yeah,
It's gotta
yeah.
have daily accountability to it, really. Unless you have, just thousands and thousands of dollars and you're like, "No, I'm just gonna play this the way long game." Um, oh, I lost my train of thought again. The, yeah, oh, I brain farted.
Well, you talking about the community and the value, um,
Yeah.
it's
What if I was just like,
versus
"Yep, so community,
therapy.
good." Oh, yeah, yeah. It's really it's meant to be a super affordable way to get ADHD level coaching in a group. So, like, the
Yeah, that's
idea
good.
of, you could go into a room, like one-on-one, you get one idea. Group coaching, sometimes it tends to be like, we're gonna have a theme for the day, and but there's still no accountability. And then there's community coaching, which is really like, you go in and you say, I've got this one issue, and you can get a whole community's worth of responses. And some
Mm.
of them are great ideas and some of them are dumb ideas. Who cares? It's all giving and there's no judgment or no shame, but you
Yeah,
get all kinds of ideas. I think that in and of itself makes it worth it because you, our systems come and go. And we usually think that if the system stops working, that we suck. And
yeah,
sometimes it just means the system ran its course and we need a new, I hate saying shiny object, but we need novelty and interest. So
yeah,
having new ideas constantly, perpetually in motion makes it exciting and makes the
yeah.
slog a little bit more worth it.
Yeah, that makes sense because that's how our brain typically works, is like, on to the
Mhm.
next thing. This thing
Yeah.
is
Yeah.
that's why we have so much trouble finishing stuff because it's like,
Yeah.
okay, it's great. The excitement wears off. Like, oh, we got to do
Yeah.
work to make this happen. And it's like, I've got, you don't see all the back end of it. Like, making a podcast is great and it's
Yeah.
awesome, but there's like the editing and there's the
Yeah.
promoting. And,
Uh,
it takes, it takes a certain level of like like yellow task where it's like boring, straightforward work, but
yeah.
it's like that's why I feel like a lot of people don't make, podcasts particularly about this because it's hard when you experience it and following through. So
Yeah. I mean,
kudos
and you'll see it.
kudos for you.
Well, thank you. But it didn't start out like that, right? So I think a lot of us will start something, right? And we won't finish it. Um, right, because it loses its luster. It loses its shine.
Yeah,
And I remember early on, when I was podcasting in my first episodes, it was like I'd do 3 one day and then not do anything for a month, and then I'd post one randomly and then another one down the road,
yeah,
and one point, I think it was probably 2 years ago at this point, I was like, "No matter what, come hell or high water, there will be an episode every single Monday." No burnout excuse, no, like, I was busy, I was on it was Christmas time, and I was out." It's so ingrained in me. I
Yeah.
think there was one time when I did a replay, but I still kinda recorded a jokey thing at the top of the replay. Um,
Yeah.
but that was it. Um, it's the consistency, and knowing that the the well, can you just say it's the consistency? It's like, yes. But, yeah, it's just you just gotta be consistent. You're like, "Oh, fuck you, dude. What is how do you be
Yeah.
consistent?" For me, it was the, I loved it the idea that no matter what, I would have at least one thing, um,
Mhm.
that I could rely on. And this kinda goes to, having depression sometimes. You just wanna give up everything. There's some episodes that I've done. I got yelled at one time by somebody because I had, police sirens on the podcast,
Oh, wow.
and I got so dysregulated by their comment,
Mhm.
um, because they're like, "You don't know anything about ADHD, and, you people have sensitivities and stuff like that." And I
Mhm.
initially was like, "I'm a fraud. I don't ever wanna do this
Yeah.
again, ever again." Um, but then I came around, right, to be like, "Well, whatever." You can't
I
please
know.
everybody, you know?
I know that's so easy. I definitely have questioned myself. Like, should I be even saying anything to, like, coming as
Yeah,
a person to educate people. Like, well, I don't have any background, or like I don't have, but I do have a lot of experience in overcoming
yeah,
things and getting better with it. And that's all that really, like, matters. Is like, I feel like, and I've been told this, that, just being a page ahead is so much more valuable than like listening to some psychobabble from even a
yeah,
therapist or a psychologist, because it's like you can't relate to that, but you can relate
right.
you and watch somebody grow, and that's the power that comes from it. Is
Oh,
like,
yeah,
I'm here in this
that's
boat with
brilliant.
you.
Yeah, that's
So
brilliant, man.
yeah, and that's something that I've learned, and I've been taught. So it's like, cuz like me, I do not like the social media space like that. Like, I get on Facebook
And
and I get anxiety. Like, it's like, even in the ADHD communities, but I do it because, like, I know that that's a place that this needs to be talked about, and that's a potential revenue. I mean, a potential avenue of getting the word out, of
mhm.
like awareness. There needs to be a higher level of awareness. Cause I was like listening to this podcast the other day, and they were talking about, like, they don't really teach you a lot in psychology, like, about ADHD, because it's like they've got bigger fish to fry, kind of thing,
Maybe
and
not
it's
big.
like, what
We're
other
gonna crack
fish?
open the DSM-5 and get to the big, big ones first.
Well, yeah, and I'm not disparaging that or talking down to any of it. It's just like there's like a disconnect there between like
Yes.
what we could know, what's out there, and like how to connect that back together so that we can learn more, and understand it more, and that it's just more out there. Like, okay, like, I get
Interesting.
like, why is this guy acting this way? At least from like a boss level.
Yeah,
Like, and
yeah.
if there's like understanding, like taught understanding of, like, hey, these are kind of the
It's
symptoms, and
yeah.
maybe that's why they're doing the thing. Like, for me, like, my therapist, what he taught me was like, we're all just on a spectrum. So if somebody's acting like kind of
Oh,
weird or off, Like, I'm like, "Oh, wow, they're probably dealing with something," so I don't really, like or if they're
Yeah.
behind me in traffic and, like, riding my bumper, that would piss me off in the beginning, but it's like now it's like, "Okay, I used to do that," and that was before
Yeah.
I practiced, like, not going more than 5 miles over the speed limit because it's for my mental health, and it's like, that's not like, they're, like, running behind because they don't have the answers, so
Mhm.
it gives me a bit more empathy for those people, and I usually try to get out the way, um, but I'm also like, "Okay, it's this is what it is. It's not gonna
Mhm.
do me any good by getting upset about it." Although it's kind of funny, like, to talk about, "Yeah, I was screaming in my car," but no one hears
Yeah,
it.
you know, are you a meditator? I did we talk about this before?
I yeah, like, to a to a degree, because there's
Oh,
this
okay.
whole debate of, is mindfulness meditation, and what's the difference? And that there's
Oh,
just
I don't care about that.
yeah.
Like
For me, like
the yeah, those debates are like whatever, but the, uh, to your point about, the reason why I was asking is because your point about like the, being in like if s when I used to get flipped off on the freeway, I would, I live in LA, people are just crazy, and,
yeah, I'm sure.
I would, I would be so dysregulated when someone would flip me off. My day
Mhm.
would be ruined. I'd be like, "Somebody out there hates me so much. I can't oh
Yeah,
my god."
yeah.
Um, and it took me like, I don't know, years of meditating. I got into transcendental meditation in my
Mm.
20s, and then that sort of like, Vipassana, like insight meditation is sort of what I do now. I just follow my breath, big deal. It's just me sitting down and shutting the fuck up for 20 minutes,
Yeah, yeah.
but it calms me. And I only noticed this is like years after, I was meditating. I'd be on the freeway and someone would flip me off or yell at me or something, and it had no effect on me.
That's
It
good.
just came in, and I'm like, "Oh, wow, that guy's angry." And
Yeah, you just kind of
there was like a
observe it.
peace to that.
Yeah, you're like, "Okay, that happened," but it's like you're not
Yeah,
attached
yeah.
to
I
that
attribute
happening.
that to meditating.
Oh, yeah, it's definitely it creates, like, a space for
A
you
space.
to,
Yes,
like,
yes, yes.
because we need that, like, especially with ADHD. That's why I'm, like, a huge proponent of mindfulness for AD. I think that is, like,
Mhm.
if there was, like, one thing that you had in your toolbox and that was it would be mindfulness. Like, it covers, like, all the bases. But I feel like that's, like, a mid-level type thing. You can't just like, "Well, I have ADHD, what do I do? Mindful." No. You kinda wanna just start with
Yeah, good
baby
luck.
steps.
Dude, that is
'Cause
the I think people would probably fight that one the most because
oh,
the
yeah.
idea of sitting and doing nothing, how can that do something for me?
No,
And
when I
it's
got my
that,
ADHD coach and
spring
yeah, she
what's
was,
that?
like, telling me to do when I got my ADHD coach and she was telling me to do
Okay.
that, I was like, "Really? That's just no. No, that's not gonna work." Like, but I
Mhm.
gave it I gave it a try, and yeah, it's it takes time. It's not like I'm a freaking Buddhist monk, but, like, I'm not trying to do that either, but it's like the value it's brought is like I'm like, "Yeah, it's crazy."
Yeah.
But what were you
Hey, man,
saying?
being in the present moment, that's huge. That's a big, big deal. And practicing the art of being in the present moment is beautiful.
Yeah, the first
It's all
day I
positive.
did it, this girl at work was like, "You look happy." And and my thoughts like, "So I look, like, pissed off every other time?" Of course, I, like, take it
You're not as
negatively.
angry as you used to look.
But I was also like, "Yeah, I do feel happy, and this is working. It's crazy." Um, yeah, but it's not about, like, being zen all the time. It's just more about, you can get to those levels, but it's more about, like, There I go, losing track, just some but
Mhm.
it's
Now it's
more
your
about
turn, sucker.
yeah, it's more about the just observation of it, of what you're feeling right now, because
Mhm.
you're gonna feel frustrated, you're gonna feel anxiety, you're gonna feel fear, you're gonna feel depression, but those things won't have as long of a lasting effect on you if you can just see, "Well, I'm depressed. Let's explore why I'm depressed,"
Mhm.
rather than just be depressed and not know why. And there may not be a reason, but at least like, hey, this is just gonna happen, and this happens, and it's gonna go away. So
Mm. Hopefully sooner.
yeah, in this next part, Russ Jones gets vulnerable and talks about his depression and how he has developed a system to help him overcome that. Tell me a little bit about, the depression, and like your struggles
Mhm.
with that.
You want me to talk about my sad times? Okay.
Yeah, I know we
The
were too happy for for too long.
Yeah. Now, mine's, I always feel it's cyclical for me. It ebbs and flows, but I'm medicated right now for depression. I'm
Mm,
not medicated for ADHD. It's not for lack of trying. It's just that all the ADHD medicines that I've tried have had some kind of a stupid side effect that it was like, no, I do not want
mm,
this, and I'd rather have no focus. Um, but
yeah,
so the depressive episodes for me, it I mean, I don't necessarily tie it to an incident or a thing. It's, I feel like it might just be chemical. And, from my learning, like serotonin is one of those things that's like a slow release. So
yeah,
somebody could do something to me on Monday and I wouldn't feel depressed until Thursday or something. You know what I mean? Or it's so hard to pinpoint.
mm,
Unless there's like a global thing, like, oh, my finances are shitty and I'm feeling hopeless and I'm just allowing that to spiral me. But
yeah,
um, a lot of times it's I've I've never I don't know if I'm do you care if I talk deep dark stuff or no?
yeah.
Some
I
I don't
mean,
want to trigger
just tell
people or
me,
whatever.
tell me a story. Just tell me what
I'm just
your experience.
the stories are pretty boring, dude. I was in my bed all day long and I couldn't get up. The
Yeah,
end. That's my depression
No.
story.
But yeah, just
I
just
just
go
stared at the
wherever you
wall.
want.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
like, so I'm fortunate that I have a system in place for myself. I call them my
Yeah.
core 4, and
Okay.
it's, 4 people that I will tell if I'm ideating or if I'm not really a danger kind of a thing, you know what I mean? I've never
Okay.
really actively planned anything or anything like that, but I have felt hopeless for too long in a stretch to a point where
Yeah.
I'd be like, "Man," I'd be like it'd be one of those things where like, "I'm not gonna do anything, but god, it would be cool if somebody was robbing the store and I could just jump in front of the gun or something," or I'd go down a
Mm.
hero, I guess. It's like ridiculously like morbid thoughts of like, how would this work if it was a um so when those kinds of things start to happen, and
Yeah.
fortunately they are few and far between for me,
That's awesome. That's
I reach out to 4 people and just let them know. And then it just becomes about connecting. Connecting is such a huge thing. It's a serotonin booster, right? You like
yeah.
it's just a way to say, "Hey, like, there's no reason for me to call outside of I need to connect with you." And
Yeah.
it's in those cases, they just know. They know that they're always on call for me to connect if I need
Yeah.
connection. And I don't have to actually say, "Hey, listen, I'm feeling really hopeless and at the end of my rope." They
Mm.
just already know that I can,
So
does
you
that make
have like
sense? Am I
a specific 4 people that like
Yeah,
know that you're gonna contact them at that point?
they don't
Or
know where they just are just I have said they know who I am and about me. And,
Yeah,
you
so
know,
they
it's like my
know that you're
ex-wife, my 2 brothers, you know what I mean? It's and my best friend. It's, yeah, because honestly, man, like, depression is so isolating, and there
yeah,
are, and when it's the darkest, it's when you are almost assured to yourself that nobody loves you. It's like
yeah,
you think, "No, they're not they're just pretending to like me, but they hate me." And so I have nobody. And
yeah,
that isolation is literally the worst. Um,
yeah,
so to have people that you go, it's guaranteed. Do you know what I mean? That they are
mm,
guaranteed to connect with me. I can
yeah,
go, "Oh, everybody else hates me. Everybody else in the world is the worst and just hates my guts and wants me out of here." But here's 4 people that I know I can reach out to.
that's awesome.
That's a lifesaver.
Yeah. No,
Yeah.
it's definitely, something that I can relate to, because I deal with depression, and I
Ah.
feel like mine's more seasonal,
Oh,
it's definitely worse in the winter, and I feel like that's very common, um,
it is. Yeah.
but, the thing that I've really has helped me recently, is connecting with strangers on a deeper level, um, and just getting out because I'm an introvert, like, and
Are
my
you?
belief is yeah. I know people don't like I talk so much, it's like, to these because, like but I used to not talk to anybody, um, and because I believed that it didn't have any value, it wouldn't add any value. So, like,
Mm,
one of the one 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 period that it was really dark recently was, like, um I don't know why I was thinking about this, but, it's like no only a couple people really call and check up on me, like my
mm,
mom and a good friend. And, I was like and I know a lot of people, but nobody ever like, calls and reaches out. So I just felt like that's my value there. Like I felt like I was meaning, worthless, not worthy of
mhm,
love, like you can't even reach out and say, "Hey," every once in a while, and I've reached out to these people. So it's like
mhm.
it was very dark. Um,
Yeah.
and people, and we need to talk about those things because
Mhm,
like you said, like it's it only gets worse if you're not talking about it. And there's ways to
mhm.
get out of it. And for me, like I've actually went to this Comic-Con this weekend, in Pittsburgh, and that
Nice.
yeah, because I was like, "This is an opportunity not only to meet a bunch of people and connect." um, I was there was gonna be celebrities there, so I was like, I could potentially ask them if they would like to be on this podcast
Heck
at
yeah,
some
dude.
point. Because that's my goal is to, like I want people of all walks of life from the most famous to, like, "Who is this guy?" talking about their
Mhm.
experience with ADHD, and so that it's,
Dude,
like,
that's awesome.
normalizing, like, the whole thing, like, I know there's other people, they just don't talk about it enough, and, like
Mhm.
so I was, talking to people, mainly about I was like, "You know what? Going deeper would let's talk about mental health." Like, I would ask them how they felt about mental health, and I'm sure they came there and that was, like, the last thing that they would ever think anybody would wanna talk about. And I'm
Like,
like the guy
dude,
there
I
like,
wanna
"Hey."
talk about Loki, and I wanna talk about
I know.
why
Yeah, so when I would bring it
so
up, it
funny.
was, like, such a mixed review. Like, some good people were like, "What do you mean?" Like,
I wanna know what's going on in your school spaghetti. What's happening up there in your brain?
"Yeah, why what is this a trap?" Like but it was
Exactly.
like there was such deep conversations and, I'm still
Mm.
learning, so I'm, like, being very awkward. Like, it's like the conversation's going pretty well and then clunk. Like, I asked this question and but it kept going, and then I found out better ways. But I was actually able to meet the voice of Ashoka. I forget what her
Oh,
name is on the Clone Wars. She's
okay.
actually a really big advocate for ADHD, and
Oh,
because
cool.
I have a big thing on Star Wars and trying to mix in like Star Wars and Batman into the show, like that gamified thing. So it's
Yeah.
like those those experience, like, I just ran out of fuel at the end of that that that
Oh,
Comic-Con, 'cause I was like I was open to talk to more people, but I'm like, I'm don't really wanna do it because like, I'm spent. Like, I'm at my
yeah.
low bandwidth right now, but it was like and I was just like, I just didn't care, like,
Mhm.
how I looked or how the conversation went about. I was like, "Let's just do this." And it's a lot
Yeah,
of it
that's
was
awesome.
low hanging fruit, where it's like, "Oh, I like your costume. How'd you make it?" So it's like letting the game come to you type thing, where it's like, "Oh, I
Mm,
can hit a three-pointer, but only after I make a bunch of layups, because 'Cause they're like, I'm getting like, that boost, like, "Okay, I can do
yeah.
this." But if I'm trying to go and talk to a celebrity right away, that's that was gonna be scary. Like, talking
That
to
would be
Danny Glover, like, I met Danny Glover, and he was, like, crazy.
that's
Like,
awesome.
that was yeah, because like, but he was it wa I was intimidated. I had to, like, come back, walk around, come back.
That's it. But you know what? Kudos to you, dude, for going and doing, especially as an introvert, right? Like,
Yeah.
you're putting in the work and doing the work. That's a big time, you know?
Yeah, because it's like, I'm seeing the value in it. Like, I'm not talking to
Yeah.
you for you, I'm talking to you for me, and plus it helps me on what I'm trying to do right here, so there's,
Yeah.
like, so much intrinsistic whatever that word is, value,
No, what is the word? Intrinsicity? What?
intrinsistic, like, intricasistic, I don't know that word.
Intricatacity? Interesting. We're
But yeah,
creating words here. Hey,
yeah, that's what we do. That's what we do.
we don't need this stupid Merriam-Webster dictionary. We can make our own words right here.
Yeah, or the DSM, 5,
Or the
like
D Yeah, we're gonna create our own diagnoses too.
yeah, because like, I was talking to my therapist about that, and he was telling me that, that new update one is like 10 or 15 years old, so it's
Mm,
like, how can that be relevant? Like, and it's a broad stroke of everything that's out there. So it's like,
yeah,
it's
I have
it's
an issue
really
with that
not
anyway.
yeah, it's really not the best source to diagnose, people with ADHD, especially in their adults and children.
Well, yeah, I mean, I don't I'm not a doctor, right? So, like, I've never read through the DSM-5 except for in some psychology classes where you have to, like, look at a bipolar and then look at this other one. But
Yeah.
the thing that I got out of those classes was that the DSM was is built to for the normies. Like, there's
Mhm.
society is a norm, right? There's like, this is how society is as a normie. And then here's
Yeah.
all these people that are fucking weird and they're acting weird and different. And
Yeah.
so that's the problem. So let's identify all these weirdos. And, I'm being super like casual about it because, there's some very real,
Yeah.
dark, scary diagnoses in there, right?
Yeah.
But it's all in service of you're different and how can you be like the normies? It's not
Yeah.
like you're different and you're different. It's you're different and let's put a pill in you to make you a normie. Um,
Yeah. And
I don't
and
know.
and
That's some of that
and
stuff
that
and it's tricky because I'm not a
yeah.
doctor, so I can't speak supremely intelligently to all of it. But I
Yeah.
am for ADHD, I'm sort of like it's our brains work different. Got it. I don't want to be
Huh.
a normie. I don't want to do things normal. I want to do things my way, and I'm good with that. And that's like, if I'm gonna, I like, here's an example real quick. I don't mean I'm rambling, but like
You're good.
we all stim, we all like fidget, and we all like can't sit still, many of us, right? And I will go crazy and I lose my mind when I'm waiting in lines at the grocery store. I'm like literally getting agitated until I started like I like rock back and forth. I rock
Mm,
back and forth in the grocery store. I look like I'm either on drugs or like I have to pee myself or something,
mm.
but I
Yeah,
don't give a shit because it
yeah,
makes me feel comfortable in the moment. And if it makes everybody else uncomfortable, then that's on them to deal with. You know, you can look away. I
yeah,
don't give a shit. But that kind of stuff is, I get really passionate about that because I'm like, no, 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 we don't, we ramble, we overshare, we talk and talk and talk,
yeah,
and we're all, people are always like, how can I stop talking? How can I not be a bother to people and overshare and tell really long stories? And I'm like, who fucking cares? Like,
yeah.
so
It's
what? So
like
they know more about me now. That's
and
that's
it's
beautiful.
yeah, it's the same people who are, like, oversharing themselves, like like, "You don't do it, but it's okay." I've got reasons why
Yeah,
I do it, like, to be who you are and be okay with that.
yeah,
That's all, like, I really want is just to have that understanding, that, like, "Hey, there's gonna be people doing some kind of weird stuff, but
it,
they're not doing it because they can help it. They're only
yeah.
doing it because it's the only way they can cope, in this
It's
world that's not designed. And it's this
yeah.
too much world of, like, everything wants your attention. Everything's vying
Oh,
for you, and it's like and you wonder why, people with ADHD are, like, having such struggles because it's like if you get on your phone or your computer and you search anything, everything that it's just designed to distract you away from what you're doing. That's
mhm.
why I've gotta set certain times where I can do that, and when I'm working on something, it's like I might see something, but be like, "Not right now." It's not happening right now. I can't, maybe later. But
Not
yeah.
now.
Yeah, so, what was it like with the medication to, like, how long did that take effect with the depression medication?
Oh, the depression medicine? It's a very light dose of Lexapro. So
Okay.
and, it I would say it's weird because, like, I'm not in a depressive episode right now. I still have to take my medicine, but
Mhm.
the way that I recognize it when I'm in a depressive episode is that, uh, I'm depressed, but I can still have a day,
Yeah.
right? I can still get up and have a day even though everything feels stupid and worthless.
Yeah,
I think
yeah.
that's, it's not like it doesn't like, and I feel great and I feel jolly and that like the world is singing and like Snow White, the birds are landing on my shoulder and it's
So it
nothing
just
like
gives you
that at all.
the ability to walk through it.
I can get through. Yeah. One of my worst, uh, one of the things that
That would be crazy if it was like Alice in Wonderland when you took the drugs, like, you're like,
in a
"Oh, there's
floating
that
tank, I
fucking
grew.
white rabbit."
Yeah. Now I remember one of the,
Dude, that
re-
movie though, like, is so ADHD. Like, I swear to God, that's like they wrote it. All those characters are fucking ADHD. Like,
it is a drug
especially
trip
the
movie,
white
I think.
rabbit. Like, the white rabbit is always like late and is talking about like,
Oh,
oh, I need to, he's got these clocks and he's running
oh
around.
yeah.
It's crazy. And Alice is
That's
like, let's
interesting.
go down the rabbit hole. And she's like in this dysphoria. And yeah, it's like all the characters are like some like symptom of ADHD. It's I don't know, you might
That's
wanna check
interesting.
that out.
Yeah. 1, 2, 3, not it. You do it. You do the research.
No, I did recently watched it,
Oh,
a
just
couple weeks ago because I was like called it the rabbit hole, and I was like, "Yeah, what can I" like, maybe there's a connection there. I don't
And
know.
it turns out
That
it
that
sounds
was
like
me
there's a
going
lot.
down that rabbit hole.
Yeah. That's funny.
So, on another note, do you watch Star Wars?
Mhm.
Okay, good. Because I was
Yes,
not.
sir.
All right. So
I'm not gonna
who do
I won't know things about it that you probably know.
yeah, there was like a freaking like they took over like that Comic Con. There was more people dressed as Star Wars characters than anything else.
Really?
And then it was
That's
like
interesting.
Scream. Like I don't know the thing with the Scream thing. You know the movie Scream?
Mhm.
Yeah, there was so many people with Scream out, and I was like, "This is still a thing?" Yes.
Wow.
And
Maybe it's
then it
just a
was like
really easy
Ghostbusters.
costume to put together. Maybe that's just the cosplay on Scream is probably really a quick, "I don't have anything built. Okay, fuck it. Just go with Scream."
Yeah, it is an
I
easy
don't know.
mask.
I don't
So so who do you think has ADHD in Star Wars? Which characters?
Oh my god. That's how would I do that? C-3PO? Um,
Yeah,
they programmed it into a robot.
with ADHD. Yeah, I was thinking about making a show with, like, droids or whatever that have ADHD. Like,
The droids. R2D2. Well,
their
C-3PO is a
programming
people
was
pleaser, isn't he?
yeah, he's always bouncing around and
And
yeah.
he's oversharing about
Yeah.
all the fucking shit he knows.
Do you happen to
Um,
know that I know 3,000,000 plus or 3,000,000,000 languages?
yeah. They're
Yes.
like, "We get it, C-3PO.
We've
We
heard that.
get it." That's so funny.
Or maybe even R2D2. And he's always, like, getting very passionate about things that he needs to do.
Oh, yeah, he's the emotionally dysregulated one? Like, but
Yeah.
he's super loyal.
Yeah, and he can hyper focus. Like, when you tell him to do a task, like, and he wants to do it, shit gets done. So,
Yeah, but the fact that he was given the most important message from Leia, and he delivered it. He was so reliable,
yeah.
come hell or high water. Like, I would think that an ADHD person would forget when
Yeah,
they got taken
whoops.
by the Jawas or whatever. He would probably forget that he even had a message to send.
Yeah. Well, the Ewoks, like, as a whole,
They're
like,
fun.
they're fun, but they pop up. They, like, create traps everywhere, deadly
I
traps.
sense that you have many papers and like, your books will be about, ADHD and Star Wars or ADHD and Alice in Wonderland. It'll be the connection and how
Yeah.
ADHD's been there all along. And look, and this is how that's how we can relate to it, is
Yeah.
through
Like,
Comic-Con
this
cinema.
has been here, it's there. It's underneath the surface. Like, it's right in front of your face, but, you just don't see it like that. Um, yeah, it's crazy. Once you, like, are aware of something, it's like it seems like those things pop up everywhere, at least for me. Like
Yeah. You know what it is? It's like that reticular activator, right? Where you're like, "I think I'm gonna buy a VW Bug," and then all of a sudden you start seeing VW Bugs everywhere, right?
yeah,
It's
you're
just
like,
all of a sudden your awareness goes to it.
"They read my mind, these
Yeah.
bastards." Alright, well, it was definitely a great I've had a great time with you, and, yeah, um,
Yeah, man. I
it
appreciate you having me onto your show.
is there anything you would like, my viewers to know or, a plug to
Well,
put in the show
yeah, I mean,
notes?
as it relates to, you can find me at ADHDBigBrother.com. The podcast is called ADHD Big Brother, and, really, I'm in service of I am an ADHD coach, and so I'm available for coaching, but I also really profoundly believe that community is the magical elixir for ADHD. And
Mhm.
uh, if not our community, I mean, I'm biased because I have the community, right?
Yeah.
And you can learn about it at the website. Uh, but a community, some place that offers you non-judgmental, shame-free support and allows you a space to have daily accountability to try to move your needle forward. If I'm talking about in service of the doing of the things, right?
Mhm.
That is just monumentally helpful for people with
Yeah.
ADHD. So that's what I would say.
No, that's and kudos for you doing that and putting that together. That I'm sure that takes a lot of work, and it's definitely needed, and I
Oh, for
appreciate.
sure. Yeah. And I live there, dude. Like, you know, what I mean? I was saying this on the podcast today, which is like, I'm not some sort of omnipotent, like ADHD person. It's like, if you do A, B, and C, then your ADHD goes away. And this
Yeah,
is the way. It's like, I live in my community. I'm also getting the support for doing my shit in
yeah,
there as well. It's like, it the need for support doesn't magically go away all of a sudden.
yeah.
So,
Although we can often think it does. When we start getting like quote unquote normal. But okay, cool. Well, I hope you have a wonderful week, and thank you for being here.
all right. Thanks, man. Thanks, Ron.
Wow, so that was an incredible chat that I've had with Russ Jones, and I hope that you guys enjoyed it as much as I did. Just stay tuned in the coming weeks. We're going to be talking more about depression and the holidays and how that can be really a complicated process. And differentiating the two can be a bit difficult. And if you have any questions that you want to answer or help with in the future episodes, please send me a 60-second audio clip to my email address, which is ronsowers at dadhdwss.com. That's RONSOUERS at dadhdwss.com. And always, here's the special prize, the special bonus that you've been waiting for. And that's my 5 hacks for overcoming fear and um, and anxiety. And you can find that at advocate.xyz/fear. And that's ADDVOCATE.xyz/fear. And as always, thank you for listening. Please hit that subscribe button if you really like it. And yeah, may the source be with you.